Well, there it is. It's Monday, December 11th, 2023. I'm Jason Schwartz. I'm here with Scott Bushnell, and this is the Neutral Zone. MauiNeutralZone.com. We're on 88.5 FM. KAKU, the voice of Maui, and simulcast on Akaku Maui Community Media TV. On cable, Channel 55, and you can find this show and all our past shows and a bunch of things at MauiNeutralZone.com. Welcome, everyone, to our show. I am just looking here at things. Scott, welcome back.
Good morning.
It may seem like December 11th is a bit early to talk about Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas.
But next week I have actually a gal that's named, I shouldn't call her, maybe that'd be nice, Dr. Bridget Bongard, who's the head of the Cancer Resources organization here in Maui, and that's when I wanted to schedule her in before the end of the year. And then the following Monday is Christmas, and everybody takes off here, and I guess we're off. And then the following one is New Year's, so that's yet another one. So we're going to miss a couple of weeks. So this is our end of the year show, and I wanted you to be here rather than sweating out there in the field and delivering content from at large. You know, Scott has been a wonderful, wonderful, not only friend and co-host here with me, but AlohaSwimLessons.com. If you want to learn how to swim, or you deal with everybody, but I guess you have
I'm very specialized in adults who have had fear or trauma in their childhood and just never got around to learning to swim. I had a couple this time. I just heard from them this morning. They were both 79 turning 80. They had a condo on the beach here for 30 years and never learned to swim and never snorkeled.
In Maui, gosh, really?
Yeah, and I taught them to swim the last holidays, and they'll be back. We'll be going out and do some more turtle stuff as long as the water looks good. So,
how is the water doing?
Water looks really nice. Yeah, it's time of year. It's like a light switch. It can go from beautiful to, overnight. Last week, oh my goodness, I don't usually see something I haven't seen. Andrew and I were out scouting some new country, and I saw a snowflake eel. I have never seen a snowflake eel. It's beautiful. It has like a white snowflake pattern on the side of it, and it's dark-skinned. Beautiful eel. Oh, my. And I think I've seen every sort of sea life in the last millennia. Yeah, so I was like, wow, that was something new.
Well, I'm going to miss going in the water. On the 20th of this month, I get I want to call it a new lease on life.
Oh, yeah.
I get a replacement pacemaker. That means these last 11 and a half years, this has been a bonus already.
Nice.
But now I'm going to be given another bonus. The new ones are going to be lasting, they say, 13 to 15 years before they need to be changed.
I watched an article where they're going to have one that's kind of like your phone, where you just press it up against your chest and it will charge it once a year. I was like,
well, that's good. I asked the heart doctor about that. He said, actually, you really want to get the new model because they keep coming up with new things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, maybe AI can turn me into Superman. That would be fun.
Oh, yeah. And I know you're on the list to get cloned. I saw that when I was at the clinic. I said, oh, Jason wants to get cloned, too. Oh, that's really, really cool.
Speaking of clones, I wish someone would clone Donald Trump.
Oh, Lordy.
And reprogram this new one.
Oh, I like Don.
You do?
I have friends that have known him their whole life. And I have friends that I went to college with.
What about all these things that are going on? What do you think of that?
What things, Jason?
Well, how about the January 6th episode?
Well, I had two friends there, and I don't know what these other media sources are talking about.
What do you mean?
I had friends that were there on January 6th, and everything was nice and peaceful.
They were where?
In Washington, D.C. at the Capitol.
Well, I don't.
There were 6 people that were angry, but other than that, you get 100,000 people together and only have 6 angry ones. That's pretty amazing.
Well, I either think that they were there on January 5th.
No, Jason, they were not there on January. I've known these people. They're my age.
No, but I mean, when you say there are only a few people there.
No, a few angry people.
Well, how did we get all that activity? It looks like someone breaking in.
Selective media coverage.
Well, that's a really interesting perspective I've never even heard before.
Oh, my goodness, Jason.
That was all a staged
I believe
event?
so. Well, if you just watch the weather forecast these days, and I was talking to my brother this morning. He'll be here next week, and I'm really excited. But on the Oregon coast, we get horrible floods. They call it the Pineapple Express. There's this line of wet weather that comes from Hawaii all the way to the Oregon coast and Washington coast and causes floods year after year after year. And nothing historical about them. I mean, the last historical flood was in 96, and I happened to be there at that time. But the media comes out, and this is what we've talked about in the past. If it doesn't bleed, it doesn't lead. They've got to sensationalize everything, or they don't have a story.
Well, I just find it very hard. I mean, this is just me.
Right.
Very hard to believe that with all the individual testimonies about what happened.
What testimony?
Day,
it's gone. They somehow lost it.
I'm not sure what you mean.
You're not sure what I mean?
No. What?
When the Freedom of Information Act got requested, and they said they accidentally deleted it.
I'm not sure we're talking about the same thing.
We're talking about January 6th, all those hearings.
Well, you think that all those hearings are not findable?
They should be.
I'm sure they are.
They sure, because the attorneys that were representing some of those men that were there, if you go to trial, the opposition or the state or the federal government, if you're going up against the federal government or you've created a felony or done something like that, the opposing counsel has to provide you with all possible information. Opposing counsel never supplied the attorneys of the men that have been sitting in jail now for 2 years with all that information, even though they were bound to, under our Constitution and jurisprudence for the state or for the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., were bound under those laws by if you be disbarred if you don't supply all the information you have. They did not. And now, because of the appellate court, some of the people that are in jail for January 6th are appealing, and the attorneys have requested that information, and the response they've gotten is that information does no longer exist. We've lost it.
I believe that that's what you believe, but I can hardly imagine.
I can hardly imagine it too, Jason, because if that is true,
a copy of.
Absolutely right. No question. I do not question that at all. Something's not right.
Something's screwy, but put that aside and put everything else aside. I still want a clone of Donald Trump because every time I see him, maybe you like him and you know people that like him as a person. That's maybe, and I don't doubt that he can be personable.
Yeah.
I haven't really understood his approach.
Let me take you back. Let me take you back to a fun story. And this is something that my dad taught me. He says, never judge a man that you have not met. I've never met Donald Trump. Okay.
I haven't either.
Yeah. So to rely on somebody that I don't know to give me an opinion on someone. Back in the early 1990s, I was running for the Oregon legislature. I had served on a committee for the restoration of the salmon after Mount St. Helens exploded.
Yeah, I remember.
And it was a joint committee, and we listened to testimony about this and that. Excuse me. And so I said, I'm just going to run for the State House. During that time, I was the shoe-in winner at one point. And because during that time, sitting on that committee, the Sea Mammals Act came into play to protect seals and sea lions. Right. Here we go. This happens about 1979. That was passed. I totally was on board with it. It made sense. Here we are. We have this catastrophic event. We lose all the estuaries where salmon spawn. Now we have seals and sea lions. So I proposed a suspension of the Sea Mammals Act so that they would manage seal and sea lion populations in the estuaries to help the salmon recover. Certain organizations that, generally speaking, I don't really disagree with a lot, but sometimes decided to run an attack ads on me. They created pictures of me killing baby seals with spiked baseball bats. They put on a campaign to call people and tell them that I was killing baby seals up in the Arctic and on the beaches. They called my mother, who was 80-some years old at the time, and convinced her that I was killing baby seals. That's the kind of thing. So if I hear someone say anything bad about someone, I will absolutely, categorically disbelieve it until I hear it directly from that person or someone I trust.
That's interesting. And I don't deny that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
That is horrible. And I'm sorry that happened. And so in that situation, I'm guessing you didn't get into the
No, I did not, no. But right. I learned so much. But you
learned that manipulated media
or manipulated direct calling, anything. It's really a complex world we're living in.
Right. Well, I'm just right now, then maybe we should put that subject aside. But I remember before there was a Trump president, there was a Trump in New York.
Yeah.
And I remember, sadly, construction people that were working that never got paid and all that goes
with it. Can we get them on the phone?
Not now, we can't. But
we need to, though.
Again, but before we go to those lengths,
okay,
there's a lot more current things that have been happening that I don't think anything is going to be a bigger story than an election that nobody wants either of the major candidates.
And that's why I'm working on Kennedy's election.
How's that for a surprise move?
Oh, it's fun. I like the guy.
No, but it's really an interesting experience. We're coming into a time where the world
we're going to have another Teddy Roosevelt.
Leader.
Yeah. And before that, it was Lincoln. The parties lost touch with the people. Both parties have completely lost touch.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
We've got a Donald Trump who doesn't really agree with anything on either party. He's like half Democrat, half Republican, and you never know where he's at. Well, you always know exactly where he's at, but he doesn't have a nice way of letting you know that.
So that's what I mean. That's what I talk about a Trump 2.0. I really wonder about his very caustic delivery.
Well,
it feels like he's ready to take down everyone, and then he uses words and stands upon them that he'll only be a dictator for the first day of his What kind of thing is that even to say?
I've never heard him say that, Jason. That's hearsay again.
No, I heard it.
But I heard it.
Instead
of the dictator we've had the last 3 years.
No, I heard the clip, and then I heard when he was trying to explain the clip, and he basically repeated that the first day he had a real strong stand on the wall and on drilling for oil.
And not starting any new wars.
Well, I'm talking about the day one, when he said he'd be a dictator. He could have persuaded anyone and do those things.
Did you hear in that same clip how he said, I'll be on the phone with Putin and we're going to finish this war? I will go to the Middle East and I will get this settled. Are those things you disagree with?
I never heard that one.
Wow, you need to listen and read the whole thing.
No, I'm not reading. I was looking at a clip where they were saying, I say, Donald, you said that on the first day of your new presidency, were you to win the election, that you would be a dictator only for the first day. What kind of a way is that even to talk?
Do we know? The interesting thing I'm seeing, and this is kind of scary world we're living in. And I have taught swimming lessons to people that I have friends from India that I taught to swim because they ended up stuck here during COVID, and they're both very intelligent, highly specialized people. And the reality is, and actually they're citizens of the United States, but I can take a 30-minute video of you, Jason. If I can't, they can. and your voice.
Word. Oh, I know that.
And you cannot tell it apart.
I saw a story on CBS yesterday where they were showing Mark Zuckerberg.
Oh, yeah.
And words, and that they
Joe
can take
Rogan.
Now, see, we've watched this AI thing coming, and why is it that when we have decisions about what to do with AI, why we don't get much more aware that this thing is already out of the bag.
I love my AI.
Box.
I have it on my phone. It's heavenly.
What do you use it for?
I use it for...
To replace you? No.
No, I don't replace me, but when I write papers and I dictate for my chart notes sometimes, and I kind of get lost in my words, and I actually ask it to condense it a little bit, or, because I have a tendency to get wordy. Get wordy? No, not possible. But I actually, if I write 2-3 paragraphs, chart notes on a client, and I go, wow, I can't put that in. I mean, I'm supposed to just...
You mean to be diplomatic as far...
not diplomatic. Much? I just need to condense what I'm saying sometimes.
Well, there's no question
it's
that
brilliant.
Things like that are very, very helpful. My concern is what you reference, which is very clear.
Yeah.
That someone can manipulate a voice, both visually,
everything,
and audio.
Yes.
And create something that, for all intents and purposes, they talk about the Tom Cruise example.
Tom Cruise.
A couple of years ago, they did this thing.
Yeah.
No one could tell the difference of which was real and which was not.
It's scary.
So that's what's scary.
Yeah,
that we're now
and we're getting
15-second
clips. They have realized now, with all these new platforms that are out there, and there's a lot, that these 15-second clips are how most people are getting their news now. So they never really, okay, I'm going to click on a story in the New York Times. I'm going to read it. Now, let me digest that. No, it's 15 seconds is the attention span of the American public. So
where are we going?
Where are we going, Jason? Right.
God.
I know. It's crazy.
But so then why, when I think about that,
yeah,
and I think about the world we live in,
okay,
I'm very concerned. We're taking, instead of writing something and realizing that, okay, it'll be a little clumsy, but I want the polished version to go in for me. And then everybody's using these tools so that when you look at where is the real aptitude of individuals, it's almost like we don't teach people how to write in script, in cursive, only printing. We don't really have to have people understand how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. They can use a device. So we're starting to we're replacing our skills as beings
with skills to use tools.
With tools.
Right.
And we're replacing all the things that are going to replace our jobs. Now, that might be really great if when their jobs are replaced, the people that are
this has been since the Industrial
meaningful.
Revolution. This hasn't stopped. This isn't new.
No, but
it's not. But it's cyclative. It is cyclative.
And now it's at a point where it could, it could shift the, when I say balance of power. I don't think balance and power are words that go together, but anyway.
It's the Rockefellers back in the 1800s. This is not a new story. It's cyclative. So we just have to keep up, and if we're not parting to keep up, then we just get pushed aside. We have a generation coming up, and you were just on it, the school, the whole thing like that. We have taken something away from our schools, and this is something that I get constant conflict with teachers that I know with. It's we put in this zero tolerance in schools. Makes sense. Nobody should be bullied, nothing like that. But when kids are so afraid to have any kind of conflict with their peers, then they never learn conflict resolution. That's what I teach at the jail.
Isn't
conflict.
That sad
Isn't that
you
sad?
have to get to a jail before you learn a skill?
Yes, because
that you should have been learning
because
earlier.
Kids aren't allowed to argue or have disagreements because teachers just calm that down. But I can disagree. I have some of my best friends that I've never agreed with anything ever, and we get in these huge heated debates.
How do they become
and we
your
still
friends?
have dinner. It's just but that's fun. But that's gone away. because you can state your points and be very much in disagreement and not be disagreeable. And they quit teaching that. It is the same thing with, like I was talking about the weather. It's sensationalized. Everything's sensationalized so that you just want to, plant your flag, dig your ground. And now our country is, we have a flag planted here for one person, a flag planted here for another person. And nobody realizes that the statesmanship and the diplomacy that goes on to make a republic work. Because the media, remember that station, it might still be on cable, that station, C-SPAN, sure, where you just sit there and watch the proceedings of the Senate and the House. Boring as, oh my God. I found it riveting.
I was just going to remind you about the 7 words, but I think you caught yourself in the middle sentence.
But it's riveting. It's absolutely riveting to watch. It is? For me, as a political scientist, I loved it because that's how... and that was the great takeaway. The seal comment I made about how I was attacked by the people who love animals, which I love animals.
No, but
okay, when I was on that council to help salmon restoration, I had some of the best. They were some of the best biologists from Oregon State and Washington State. These guys had incredible educations, and they had an absolute opposite way of wanting to solve the problem. It was boring listening to all this, but it was yet riveting. But you take biologists now who have great science on both sides of the issue, and all of a sudden they're having to turn into salesmen. And that's what the lobby does, basically, or used to do before. The lobby now is the mass media. We've replaced our lobby, where if you told a senator or representative something and it came out to be a lie, bam, your lobby card is gone and you can no longer speak or go inside chambers. But with mass media, we convince the people in our country of something, and then they flood senators' offices, and now the senator's thinking, oh my God, my constituency is thinking this way, instead of having somebody from the lobby who has facts and figures from both sides. And that's what a lobbyist would do. If I work for the Beef Council or I work for PETA, I'll have 2 different separate opinions. But somewhere in the middle, and that's what a representative does, and that's what a senator does, takes what the Beef Council wants, takes what PETA wants, and then in that snoring, slow, boring world of C-SPAN, not ESPN, not CNN, C-SPAN, they would work that out. And that's the negotiative state and how things move forward in this country. But now we have PETA going to the National Geographic Society. PETA's going to all this, and they're well-meaning. I mean, I've been a member of the Pacific Whale Foundation since its beginning. I absolutely believe in their cause. But when it gets sensationalized, and then nobody goes, well, what's going on here? And then they create beautiful pictures of how horrible things are happening with people that are fishing, and they can move the narrative without science, because there's science that PETA has, there's science that the fishing industry has, and somehow they're supposed to meet. But if you can control the big media picture,
sure,
bam, now you don't need a lobbyist. You don't need real facts. You need a beautiful presentation that moves the heart and makes you want to hug that puppy and that baby seal. So the science was gone.
But I guess then I don't know what we're even arguing about, because
we
what
never
we basically
argue.
You talk about sitting down and having dinner and smiling and being. I don't like Donald Trump. I am sorry. Whatever pieces I've seen, I believe. And I'm sorry because before everything, when he was in New York, and it didn't matter. I mean, people weren't getting paid. That was really on the street. When it got sensationalized in many ways, but I just don't know what to say. I'm concerned that the general, I don't think I'm unique in any way, that the world is... That thing about going to hell in a handbasket, the world is at such a fragile point for us to be able to see things.
I think people are fragile. I don't think the world's fragile. Not at all.
Well, I think that the world is fragile the way it's going at it. Like right now, for example, I'll give you, in my idea, it's fragile in that people are fighting each other when you try to look behind. What is it that each of these groups want as a people? Mm-hmm. They want to be able to live their lives, have gainful employment, feed their families, have a general good quality of living. For everyone. I don't think there's any shortages. So that's how I look at it. But yet, I see the polarization based on greed and fear. And you just talk about manipulation of the media. And it's just horrible.
The media is creating stories. Let's draw this back. Okay, let's get back to Ukraine for just a short minute.
I wasn't sure we were there.
Okay. I know we've got to go there. Oh, okay. So, last November, not this last November, year before, okay, I had a huge Ukrainian family. Part of them lived in New York, and the rest had come from Kiev. And I had them, their kids in swim lessons. We all went snorkeling. I spent 2 weeks with this family. And they were shocked that no one was telling anybody that half the Ukrainian population wanted Putin to come in.
Well, I had heard that in the media as well.
Yeah, and they were just like, we were really looking forward to that.
Because of the corruption in
because they had to close their church, and they were so angry that this gentleman over there now had closed their churches.
Okay, again,
yeah, that's his firsthand. No,
that's why I'm saying, where is our world going? I don't really think that anyone's going to come in.
No,
I don't think a Trump could go talk to Putin and say, "Okay, war's over." What are we kidding? Who's going to... You think those other countries that are involved are going to be listening to Donald Trump and letting him take the lead when he pulled out of agreements on climate, where the only one in the world that said no was America, and on and on? Well, I don't want to go down the list, but I mean, why is now going to be any different where a magic bullet will come out of someone like that?
You've got to... it took Kissinger to go to China. Why? Somebody's got to have the cojones, not be it Donald Trump, be it Mr. Kennedy. Somebody's got to go and just sit down, and they got to hash it out. We can't sit here. I mean, the news stations right now are going broke because they have to sensationalize everything to sell anything. We've watched... Fox News has lost 80% of its market share. CNN has closed 3/4 of its buildings because they're going broke. All the major news corporations are going broke.
Well, that's an interesting...
People are just stepping away. And then there's some people who focus on one news organization. And I have some beautiful friends I love, and I can tell which news they're watching by what their blogs are saying. And it's just like, it's real easy. And it's like, you got to listen to everything and take it all in. If you're afraid to watch Fox, or if you're afraid to listen to some of the Jewish podcasters who I find very disdainful, but
podcasters? What does that mean?
People that have got millions of followers. Who?
I'm a Jew. You mean this?
Oh, yeah, and they have a total distake from what the rest... Fox News and CNN and CBS, completely different. I did not know that the Israelis had brokered a peace deal right before we sent $50 billion to Ukraine. What the hell? We could have given all of our teachers raises. We could have made sure all the homeless, $80 freaking billion. You know what that would do for the homeless population across this country? We could have bought everybody a house.
Well, but we wouldn't. Even if we had the money, we wouldn't. Let's not forget that part.
Yeah.
Okay. But now, when I hear those things, I find it difficult. We go back to where we were last week.
Yeah.
They went off the gold standard.
They did.
And the world is
printing money.
Printing money and playing. You just talk about $80 billion to build houses and this and that.
Yeah.
There's no reality here.
No, it's monopoly money. And it's still the same game. It's monopoly. It's the game that the Rockefellers and let's look back. Rockefeller knew that if he controlled the oil back in the early days of the automobile, he'd control everything. And then they realized, okay, we control the oil. If we control the chemicals, now we have more control. Hey, what if we control the pharmaceuticals? Bam.
What if we discovered and created the education system, and
we had one that worked brilliantly.
The American Medical Association. We can go all over.
Yeah.
So we understand that the power control is in the hands of few that were the brokers of power at that time. Yeah. So here we are, 100 years later, however many years later. Is there any way to get this train back on a track toward equality, peace, and peace, and peace?
I think that lays in the heart of each American, because we are the government. I am the government. You are the government. And as long as we speak out and speak from our heart, it's good.
Well,
we are a collective.
You just talked about the $84 billion that went to the Ukraine.
Right.
I'm very concerned that we can't de-escalate. It's like
right.
Our inflation. Just a shock if you don't go to McDonald's, it's worth going in to see that this little hamburger that used to be able to feed the homeless 99-cent burgers are now $3 or $3 and everything is escalating to a point where, and the wages surely aren't. So what's happening? We're getting a working class that is just scraping to survive, never mind luxuries, and then those that are the ones that are doing really good. I have a friend that was crying she didn't have any real estate deals. Then someone walks into the office and says, I want to buy a 3-bedroom in my building. I already own 2 others for $3+ million cash. And yet we hear the interest rates are high. So those that have having a field
nothing's
day,
changed. Nothing's changed.
No, but it's getting worse. That's my consideration.
Right.
Here on our island, when the wildfire, it isn't wild. Let me be. Whatever is going on happened. Everyone is affected. Not only the people in that area. I really have a hard time when you get down to homeless. And you get down to the place where people at the very basic level of subsistence aren't helped across the board, but not only if you were in that area and you were specifically in the wildfire by a definition that they define, are you getting help? But there are still people suffering horribly.
There are.
And there's insufficiency in our housing. Is that being clouded by the fact that we had this fire and now we need so many things? We needed so many things before there was a fire, and now things have gone up. There's no way to bring these. You're going to see these rents coming down.
I see it. I see a large adjustment. All the economists that I follow that I trust that are really, really controversial, generally speaking, and the one fellow that I followed, I get a mail from him, one of those newsletters. And right before the crash of 2008, I owned 3 properties at once. At that time, I was flipping properties. And I bought 2 of them on ARMs so that I could get real low right off the bat.
Were they
small
here?
payment. Not small payment. Those were in New Mexico.
See, I had 11 houses that went kabooey.
Yeah.
So what happened to your situation?
My situation was I could have short sold those on his not, he didn't tell me directly, but I read it, and he said, if you're holding assets and they're on an ARM, if you can't convert the ARM and hold the interest rate down, unload them right now. And I held off, and and next thing you know, interest rates went up. I couldn't roll them. It was brutal, just brutal.
Right. So
we both made I've made some incredibly great mistakes in my life.
Me too. What are they mistakes? Maybe these are the lessons we've been meant to learn.
Yeah, they are. every day there's something to learn.
And look how much you appreciate your life. All that stuff. It's almost like a lifting of a burden.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes people can spend all their energy tracking and building their assets and forget what it means to experience. You know,
so here on Maui, I was thinking this the other day. I got the bills for November, and basically I spend about $554 giving that to the oil companies each month. 256 goes to Maui Electric, who buys diesel to make us oil, to make us electricity, and the other one goes to Maui Oil, which I absolutely love. I've been a member of that co-op forever, and I was like, wow, okay. So, and I was looking because I had the thing. I have all my Maui Oil things, and I use the exact same amount of gallons that I did 3 years ago. My bill 3 years ago was $139. So now that $554, which used to be $225, and I'm going like, okay, I'm on a fixed income. And it's like, okay, so inflation infected me by 118%. So everything is basically doubled and a little of what I have left after I pay rent, pay car insurance.
No doubt.
And the two big bills are gas in the cars and electricity. So I'm like, okay, so that means comparatively to back just a few years ago, inflation has hit me by 118%.
Well, and I have similar situations.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we're not even close to being alone.
No, God, no. God, I'm just lucky I have a partner. It's still in the working community, but...
By the way, I just want to break in and do the official. We are 88.5 FM, KAKU, the voice of Maui, and Akaku, Maui Community Media, Television, Channel 55 on cable. You can find this show and all the other shows and more at MauiNeutralZone.com, where we have a search engine there. You can search literally hundreds and hundreds of shows. And I just wanted to break that in. You know, as we speak, I think to myself, you know, boy, we talk and we talk about our opinions and stuff. And this is fun. And I think that's why I'm next week doing, it'll be opinion also, but talking with the head of a cancer thing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's an area. We used to have a lady here, Mary Margaret, that did shows with medical people. I don't think she's doing stuff here at KAKU at the moment. That COVID thing blew. But I met this lady when I was here. There was an event outside, and I thought it would be a good subject. So that's the reason we're not going to be here. By the way, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, everyone.
Oh, yeah.
2020. Can you believe 2024?
I wasn't supposed to live this. Speaking of cancer, I wasn't supposed to live this long. I moved home, and I was set up for hospice.
You were?
Yeah. When I moved back 10 years ago, I had hospice all dialed in. My blood couldn't get my blood figured out. Dr. Ataha down over here, over here at the Cancer Institute in Wailuku, got me dialed in. All of a sudden, I'm like, wow, I feel better. He looked at my medications. That with Dr. Wolf, who used to be in Lahaina. She retired and she's gone. They got me dialed in, and next thing you know, it's like, okay, I spent all my savings. I'm on Maui, running the farm for the family. I said, I can't do the farm thing. I don't want to work 24/7, 7 days a week. Okay. Moved to Kihei, to a tiny little apartment just across the street from the beach. But it's like, no, cancer's a life changer. It really is. And I mean, I had cancer back in my college years, and then again. And then, I've been going for blood work over at the infusion center here the last 4 weeks. But they've got it dialed into the point with the new technologies that, they just give me a cocktail mix, and I've gotten so used to it, it's like, we're good to go.
And I'm sure there are all kinds of ways to address cancer situations. The one that I'm interested in, which I will see if our director of the cancer is the one about prevention.
Food.
The one about what are we putting in to create this monster. How is Honey Boo Boo's sister at 29 years. Honey
Yes.
Boo Boo?
Yeah.
That's a media thing. Nobody. Do you know anyone here named Honey Boo Boo?
No, not that probably isn't working the street.
But 20. You children out there, you don't understand that.
Yeah, traffic,
But I mean,
traffic.
29
traffic
years
people,
old having carcinoma. I mean,
pretty common.
yeah, but the food that
we're eating, Jason, is horrible.
Unbelievable.
One of my things to do today, after leaving here, is I'm going to go over here to the market, which has amazingly good stuff, and try to find flour that has not been processed or not been genetically modified or fed in all these things that they keep treating our food with.
Yeah.
Why is it that all of these things that we've gotten bloated with, diabetes, they don't exist in Africa? They don't exist in India?
Well, you know why? Because if you put these things on crops,
yeah,
and then they get processed, it's less expensive.
I don't think it was done nefariously, though. I think they did it because they wanted to make sure everybody got fed. And there again is a chance
but then they couldn't undo it. That's why I kept talking about all this stuff.
They didn't know the outcome. Like my 11 friends who have died from carditis in the last 18 months.
What is carditis?
It's some kind of a heart problem that just comes on suddenly and they just died.
Wow.
Yeah. They're all my age. They're all very active, nothing. They just, boom, gone. My one friend used to ride his bike up to the crater and back when he'd visit a couple times a week. These are really healthy guys.
I was going to say, you have friends that drive up and down?
On a bicycle.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm the old fat one of the group. Yeah, I was a swimmer and a water polo player in college. Some of my friends never lost their edge, man. They look good.
But then they drop dead.
Just all of a sudden, they thought they had indigestion and blah, blah, blah. And they go in, and then all of a sudden, there's an infection in the lining of the heart, and poof.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm real happy to be getting a pacemaker.
Oh,
here.
I know. I was hoping you'd get a lobotomy, but, I can only keep my fingers crossed on that one.
Well, you still got a shot at it. Put in your bid and see what if they come at me.
And this is Jason's old brain. We have it on the shelf over here in Formaldehyde.
Yeah, my brain has been pretty well. I almost feel like I'm retired from really taking hard punches, but I don't think I've made any hard punches.
Oh, okay. I was thinking you were a teenager in the 60s. I was just a very young child in the 60s. You must have had a wild time back then.
Well, let me see. Where was I?
And you were in New York?
Yeah, I was in New York.
Wow.
1969.
Studio 34 or 64?
What?
Studio, whatever that was.
Then I was a little too young for Studio 54.
Okay.
That was 54th Street in New York City.
I did not know it was on 54th Street. I just thought it was the name of the studio. I learned something today, Jason. I will go home a happier man.
Oh, I knew that. That's why I brought you here. I'm just here to please you. When we sit here, I know you're having fun, and so am I. But do you have a desired outcome when we do these shows? I know I do. I actually want to get our audiences to start thinking about some of the things that we're saying. Get more active in being more critically thinking about the news that they're digesting.
Yeah.
And starting to treat each other better.
Yeah, and realize that if you're going to say something on social media, just dial it back 20 years and think about walking up to somebody and saying that to their face. Wow, that would sure change how a lot of people post today.
No, but it's upsetting to me that it doesn't stop and it's not slowing down.
I think we've reached a saturation point, and that's with any social change. It's someone who studies social science and things of that nature. We go through these cycles, and so right now we're in this cycle where we all have our cell phones. I mean, we're not young, and we can operate these very well. It's a new tool, and like any tool, you can either cut your hand off with it if you're not using it right, or it can become the most amazing thing that you can do wonderful things with. That same tool that might have been in it might have been in the tool shed 150 years ago. You could carve a beautiful carving, or you could cut your hand, cut your leg, and kill yourself. So it's a tool. And you used that word earlier, and it was a brilliant analogy of what we've got. We've got new tools, and we're all just learning how to carve, and we're all learning how to make something hopefully beautiful with these new tools. But we got to realize there's people that are carving stuff up that's really ugly, and they have an agenda, and they're trying to manipulate us. So take everything with a grain of salt.
I do, but I'm very concerned. I mean, when I heard that thing about Microsoft, not Microsoft chairman, they had an AI division, and that the head guy said something at the board that he lied to them, that he really is concerned that this is something that could, destroy mankind. And then they let him go, and then everyone screamed, and then he went back on again.
It's Skynet.
I'm very concerned that by the time we get to even make a choice about things, it's already locked in, and it's difficult to undo.
Right.
So I
mean,
don't
it's
know
a
what that
grab.
means, except we better be very much enjoying the present moment and learning to make this moment a good moment, and what we do a good thing. Like you talked about all this personal responsibility people might take if they recognize that if they said that 20 years ago, they'd have to really tone it down because someone's liable to come at them with a
pickaxe. And just not randomly off the cuff watch something they see on TV or on a 10-second flip.
But if they don't, that's my thing.
Right.
If we don't, that's the thing about AI. If we don't, the tendency, again, that's just my conclusion. The tendency is a ball rolling downhill. I think, who was that? Newton? Newton. Will continue to roll downhill unless there's an equal and opposite force coming at it.
Right.
There is no equal and opposite force. Things are rolling down the hill.
But when it comes to AI, I going back to my dad again, he told me about this, and it blew my mind. And when my dad was very young, they got a radio. My father would be 106 years old now, something like that. And when my grandfather brought the radio home and they would listen to it, my grandmother made my grandfather, when my dad was very small in the 1920s, take the radio and put it in the garage because she was worried that they were getting the radio, they could hear them and what they were talking about in their house and things. And this was in the 1920s.
Perceptive.
It is, and that was 100 years ago, and we're still. These are the same questions we're looking at today.
You sound like somebody changing subjects. I love the way you work. It's really good.
Oh yeah, you should come to the pool and walk with us when we walk. And Jason used to walk with me. I walk, from Wailea all the way through the beaches in Key. I try to do that every day to keep healthy.
That is just amazing.
And we would just talk and talk and talk.
I want to be back doing it again, but I'm not ready. I can't even come into the pool.
I know, it sucks.
A month after
I'm going to have to swim.
Oh my God. I have so much fun talking to you, but we're talking about subjects that have such, I think, critical importance to the way the world is developing. But I know that our president is not reaching out to listen to me, or you even.
No.
I know, and you've got, like you say, you have a lot of reach through the people you know.
I do.
I used to think, I know all these people on Maui. I'm interviewing all these people on Maui. I'm going to really be able to make a difference because I'll be able to talk to them personally, where if I never got involved, I wouldn't be able to get up close and really give them. And then I get really up close, and now they're not looking to see me. They don't have time for me, or they find, and I guess that's often true, they find reasons to find other things more important, and I feel
and you're stuck with Scott, and all you do is just shake your head, going, "Oh God, I've got Scott another day. I can't get the mayor."
I like having you on because, I don't even, when I say the mayor, somehow this mayor has been more invisible than previous mayors. And again, that's a product of how much the media is covering the mayor. He's still the mayor doing the same kind of things he was doing, right? I mean, a mayor does mayor things.
And that's busy life these days.
Yeah. Did you hear the recent one that money that could have gone to helping pay the rent, $100,000 worth of money in the FEMA money, went to extra security for the mayor?
I did not know that. I would have to see that.
No, that was just in the last day. So everyone wants to tell everyone how they're spending, what they're doing, what they're doing. And the sensationalism of things and so much negativity. Maybe we should just go on here and do nursery rhymes for an hour.
No, that would be fun. Jason, you're a great writer. I mean, you could make some killer nursery rhymes.
AI.
Oh, dude, yeah, you know.
How do you write nursery rhymes with AI? That sounds
Take some acid, Jason. You're from that 70s era, you know. Isn't that what they did back then? They sat around and, like, talked and, you know, smoked and, like, and talked about things. I don't know. I'm messing with you. I'm messing
You've met people who have done that? Nursery rhyme writers?
Oh, I'll tell you, you know, I went to a social science school. It wasn't an engineering school or anything, but it was like, I had this one professor, Dr. Tangren Alexander. I loved her to death.
What's her first name?
Tangren Alexander. And I was in college in the 80s. And I took one class it was more than one class. I took philosophy from her. And she came in one day and put an apple on the table, got on the table, sat there cross-legged, and she was staring at the apple. And it was, we're going to contemplate an apple today. And the conversation that was derived off of that, amazing. And then the next day she brought in a tub of butter, and she put it on a plate. And this was early in the fall, so it was still warm out. And we all sat around for 2.5 hours watching the butter melt. We talk and we create stories, and we would just go in our mind and do all these kind of things. And I was like, that was the weirdest period in my college career, I will tell you. But I still have stories from it, because it was like how to think outside the box, how to see how other people see things completely different than you do. You know, it's pretty amazing that we can all look at the exact same thing and see something different.
Well, one thing that I think we all see is that in 4 minutes,
I can't
really look. Is that right? I can't even see.
Yeah, my watch says stand up.
Oh, so in a handful of minutes, we're going to be off the air. And why don't we get out of all this controversy and
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah.
I hope that everyone out there can find some joy this holiday season. And you know, remember there was a song, "Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy." Well, I think.
Yeah, they played that in San Francisco bars, I'm sure.
I'm sure they did. Well, but I would like to think that if people out there this is a season to be generous. And I really hope that everyone around the world, but surely here on Maui, can put down their swords and their attack mode and start to appreciate the moment and each other in a healthy way. Healthy way?
Healthy way? I mean, that used to be the measure of a family, is how they did it the holidays. Because you've always got one uncle that was drunk and passed out by 2 p.m. You got one aunt that's going to tell grandma how to cook. I mean, that's the beauty of the holidays, though. Embrace it, enjoy it. You know, it's beautiful.
I have to think back. Do I remember any aunts that were drinking and cooking? Yeah, I guess so. You know, it's been a long time because I don't have any kids, and I haven't in my adult life. I haven't been able to really have that family experience except with friends.
Oh yeah,
the friends around here on Maui, you know, is a large group of, I want to say, orphan stepchildren.
There are a lot of folks like that.
A lot of people that have grown kids and they're here on solo. Mm-hmm. We only have is that? I can't see, Scott. Can you see? Does that say 2 minutes, or does that say 1 minute, or 12?
That's what this shows.
Yeah, we got a couple of minutes only. Wow.
Yeah.
You know, you are always a good guest because you never make it boring. You always break it up. Scott R. Bushnell, our co-host.
Private swim lesson.
Have a very Merry Christmas and
Merry
Happy
Christmas,
New Year,
Jason.
Scott.
Happy Hanukkah.
Today's Hanukkah, yeah. Well, I think we're on the fourth
we're on the second day of third day of lighting. Yeah, we're there.
We're even further along in the
I
world.
know. So one of my oldest child converted to Judaism back when he got married.
I want to also announce that on December 15th from noon till 6, the public can come in. If you're a business or affected by the fire, it's free. Otherwise, a $50 donation. You can come and offer up a greeting. So come on down to Akaku and be in touch, and you'll be able to find out about that. We got enough time for some music. What is that music? Our closing. Come on, is that right? Happy New Year, everyone. Aloha. We'll see you again next year.